let it all out. Too late.
No camera, right? Let's do the, let's not do camera.
I don't know if I can make the owl not do that.
Oh, well, I don't see
Right.
it, or maybe I can't see it.
I just don't have it big enough for you to
Okay,
see.
no, I don't wanna see it, it's distracting. Okay, let's be quick, I had a couple things I just wanted to run through, the first thing, is the brick grant, because, there was an update on that. I spoke to Mary Ann and, kind of like fully approved now. So there's still 2 grant agreements that are coming in for us to sign, but Gary signed off on, the advance notice to proceed, which enables us right now to start tracking admin hours in the grant, and, so Mary Ann can like, and it's retroactive to November 22nd, which was
Which is
actually when
good.
it started, so Mary Ann can start tracking that and we can start billing back to that. The reporting requirements are gonna be twice a month. Mary Ann will be submitting, financial reimbursements to them. And then starting in January 2024, January, we'll be responsible for submitting quarterly reports. Assuming that the actual grant agreement contracts have been signed at that point. But that probably will, it may or may not happen because we're at the end of the year. So Mary Ann also, I guess, reminded me, I wasn't quite sure I knew this, but this grant is 100% funded, so 75% was the award from FEMA, and the 25% match she said is covered by the state. So the town is not paying anything for this.
It's a change, I think. I think when we hinted at that.
I think
partway
that was
through.
suggested, but I had put that out of my mind, I was just thinking ARPA.
Yeah.
But apparently
Also-
not, so
Good,
that's good news.
that's
So-
good news.
And then she also said, so we submitted the grant proposal over a year ago. And we had certain, like, we didn't have bids at that time, but we had sort of a ballpark that enabled us to submit the grant, and, because it was over a year old, now that we're looking for actual bids, they may come in higher than what we had assumed in the proposal. Ina said if that happens, we should reach out to them immediately. And they will not provide extra funding under any circumstances. They would, yeah, they're very like helpful with the timing. Hard no on any money changing. So if that were to happen, we could either rescope the grant, which rescope it downward, but not upward, which would.
You might want to move the boxes so that I'll can pick up on you. They may,
Would that, the rescoping, would that be another fee going to do that?
It would mean like, we would say, oh, our bids came in so much higher, we'll just cut this part of our study out of the grant. I'm just telling you, but I don't think that would happen. So the 2 options would be at that point, we rescope downward, reduce the amount of work, or our select board would need to approve our town spending money to close that gap. So this is just. I don't,
yeah,
we can avoid that happening. So let's see, so November 22nd, 2023 is when the grant clock started. We have 1 year to complete the work from that point.
so that means the engineer comes in this
Yes.
year.
So, and if we can't meet that deadline, apparently that's, or that timeline, we would just need to sort of put our reason why we can't meet it in one of our quarterly reports.
Did we already pick the engineer? Was that
No.
part of it?
We
Well, I
did.
thought we had,
Well,
we looked at,
we
We've
have,
gotten an estimate
yes,
from that, Morowski.
I can't hear you.
We had gotten an estimate from Matt Morowski at Ripple Engineering.
Ripple engineer.
Ripple,
So basically where we're at now is. We need to create a proposal. We need to create an RFP, a request for proposal. So we need to create that. And we need to get 3 engineering bids. Or we need to justify why we can't get 3 bids, but we're looking for 3 bids. And, I asked Marianne, do we have a short list? And she said, we have this place that we got the initial proposal from. Janet had a few from the sidewalk grant. She said there were, so there were a couple names.
Yeah,
And then she said, you had a few names.
Yeah, I think, the Boys and King could probably be approached. With the firm, it used to be Malone and McBroom, they're now absorbed by a international firm, I can't remember the name of that firm now.
Okay, well,
At some point, I think we should meet with Rod also.
So-
Because they're involved with, some of them are very much connected to road stuff, and we shouldn't be working in a vacuum.
well, so Marianne said the next step. Pretty much is that we need to create this RFP, and that would be sort of, as a group, we should designate somebody within our group to kind of work with Mariah, who's done these RFPs before, to generate this. And then it would be sent around. I think the select board ultimately would have to sort of approve that. And then we would put that out to whatever firms we identify. Get the bids back, and then as a planning commission, we'd look through those bids and sort of make a recommendation based on what we get back. We make a recommendation to the select board, so that's,
So the reason I'm mentioning Rod
yeah.
is that he's already working on some stuff, and he doesn't know about this. And so he's got an engineer working on the Stratford Road, he's working through 2 rivers. And we probably ought to all get in the same room in case there's any talk going around on
Well-
anything else. And make sure that we're completing whatever will work with our town. Because I have hinted, he's searching for money, because the bottom of Stratford Road is gonna be extremely pricey. Including the engineering. If there's any way to meld these 2 together, we need to be speaking. From the same platform
Right.
a little bit for an objective for these people to engineer. Does that make sense?
No, it absolutely does make sense, and I kind of asked. Marianne about, since we put in this. Proposal for the grant, the roads washed out. Twice, we've had other problems, so, and so basically the grant is, it's basically a risk assessment of. This emergency management corridor, I think, that's what we're asking the engineer to provide, so. They'll have to take into consideration what's happened in the last year. And I would think if there's somebody already on the site doing some of this work, it would make sense to get that company to provide one of those bids. We still have to get 3 bids, so.
Yeah, I think they've already started drilling. Whatever one the town.
Well, but that's okay, because we're just looking for someone to.
But I don't know how far he's gone on any of the other stuff. I don't think he's gone anywhere, but we haven't spoke to him, so I don't want to say anything. He's not aware that we're doing this.
Mhm.
By the way, I brought it up and he hasn't quite, but we were busy with other stuff.
Well, but they're actually doing the work. This is a scoping study for like taking into consideration the work that's been done and is underway and sort of what the next steps are for this corridor.
So we ought to be talking with him about the
Well, I think-
next steps.
I think that engineer could be someone we should ask for a bid from. The one that Rod's already working with.
And it kind of, the select board already hired him, I think.
Right, but it's 2 separate projects. If he's already familiar with the area that we're also gonna be scoping, we could say, hey, we've just been awarded this grant and.
You're already
Since You're
there.
already there, we're getting, 3 bids. Would you be willing to bid on a
Again.
narrow scope on like what we're asking, it's something a little different.
Yeah, and the only thing without talking to Rod, I'm just, this is why I say I think it's time to talk to Rod, is that there was the original sloughing that happened between asking for the brick. And then it sloughed before the flood, and then more sloughed. And I'm kind of hoping that, I know the town is struggling for money to be addressing this. And 2 Rivers is helping, and maybe one slough is different than the other slots. But we won't know how to send these people or what we're looking for until we find out from Rod. Who they got lined up for what part and where he'd like to have them addressed. He would certainly, I think, like to have the help.
Okay, I mean, I was gonna. I was gonna offer, unless anyone was jumping to do this, to be that person that works with Mariah and. She doesn't even know this, but you know, I was gonna reach out to her and say, could you help me with RFPs and work with Mary Ann and Mariah to do this? Unless anyone has experience and they would rather.
No, all I'm saying is it should be Mariah, Rod, and
Yeah, no, I mean, and Rod would be pulled in, I think, I would.
it'd be kind of like missing the horse on the wagon. Like that.
And I sort of see that happening, nothing's gonna happen before the end of the year, so I think this is gonna be like a January thing where. I can come into the office and meet with her and talk to Ryan and kind of put together something, try to get bids out, or try to get requests for bids out. So,
Yeah, you'll have to, just a hint, you'll have to, sit down and tell Rod a little bit what this is all about. And how much money is involved, I started to tell him, but we're on the side of the road talking and didn't get very far. Fill him in, because he's working on the same things, but unaware of this. And I think it would be helpful,
okay,
and I wouldn't want him to be offended.
well, he's probably
Hopefully he'll see it as additional help.
not aware actively, but you know, he's been at meetings where it's been. Like, he's sort of subconsciously aware that we have this grant thing going on behind the scenes, you know,
Yeah, not,
well.
and he'll welcome the help, he'll welcome you. I think that's great. If you wanna take it on, I think that's great.
If there's any way we can all coordinate and get more bang for our buck out of any, and I'm all for that, so.
And encouraging Mariah and Rod.
Okay. Got it. All right. Any questions, Izzy?
Nope.
Are you alive here,
Here
Izzy?
with us.
Yeah, I'm alive. Just the chaos of having little kids, you know?
Okay. So that's the update on that, and I will talk to Mariah and Rod and things, we'll get this kind of underway, probably in January. One thing I wanted to mention, which I forgot to say, Michael Staka emailed me about so many funding opportunities, I just can't keep up with it, but he, the Department of Housing and Community Development is pleased to announce the availability of the Downtown Transportation Fund to support revitalization efforts in designated downtowns and eligible designated village centers. So he just kind of sent this to me. The application deadline is mid-February. And I think he was, hope that maybe we would, Mary Ann would take it up in conjunction with the planning commission.
You know,
For
you know,
what?
I'm not sure that what I read, the little bit that I read, it doesn't sound like we would, be qualified for that. But, you know, I suppose we could look into it, but.
Because of the village designation,
Yeah,
because both
Not
villages
because-
are designated.
right, but there are other things that are part of the, you know, the parameters that they, and I think they're thinking, it seems like it's for larger towns, not just.
Ones that have septic and
Yeah,
water,
yeah, I think, you know, but I'm,
well, and that you can put like housing, affordable housing and multiples. With some kind of municipal sewer
Can you
system.
read the name of the,
Downtown Transportation Fund Grant. And I was just, he downtown transportation fund grant, was gonna, so. This fund has funding available to help municipalities make a variety of transportation-related capital improvements. It's intended to support safe, multimodal and resilient transportation systems. And I think specifically he was thinking about it, if there was some potential in Tunbridge for pedestrian and bike safety, so I think he was thinking maybe.
Yeah, it would
sidewalk
tie
and-
in with
Yeah, somehow
that.
it would tie in with that. I mean, I haven't had a chance to look at this whole. There's a whole thing about eligibilities and, you know, you have to have, like you were saying, Janet, a state designated downtown district. Yep, it looks like you have to participate in the Better Connections program, which is
Right, that's what
actually Chittenden County stuff, so.
Yeah,
It's not.
that's why I wasn't sure. I mean, I could talk to Rita. I could ask Rita
I
about
think
it.
we participate in that connections program, you know.
Yeah, that's why I
think
was
we
thinking
can.
we wouldn't really be eligible because we have this part. But I can ask Rita about that program, but somehow it seems like it's for more you know, bigger, more
Yeah.
town instead of little village kind of thing like we are.
I'm all for grants, but we have a bunch of things we're kind of juggling right now and some immediate need. And not a lot of people sitting at the table, so I feel like it's worth asking Rita, like,
Yeah, if it could tie in some
If it
way
could
and
tie in.
work, yeah, that would be great, but
And I think we need to be cognizant that, to hand it to Marianne without clear understanding, you know, she's getting paid fairly decently from us
yeah,
as a townspeople, she's not free.
yeah.
So we shouldn't be handing her,
Yeah, it's like busy work.
yeah, we don't wanna hand her busy work, we wanna hand her
Well-
something solid to look into.
And also it's gonna, I mean, I'm pretty sure it requires matching money, so it's more,
it's 20,
Yeah.
80-20.
yeah, so that's another thing, like it's one project at a time. Maybe.
Yeah.
Although, you know, I will ask her
Well, it's-
about it and see.
It's frustrating because there's all these grants, you know, and it's hard. I think we thought when we got Marianne, that when we that, oh, great, now we've got someone, we can just get all this money, but she's just one person and there's a lot of things
Well, did you get the
going on.
grant stuff? Well, I know you did,
You sent it, that was another thing I had.
and that one of the things that caught Rudy's in my eye, and I don't know, Rudy, if you looked into it for our town versus just sending it on to White River. One of the things that's affecting the Stratford Road. A possibility is that Willhead Dam right there at the bottom of the washout. You know, if they could remove that maybe and straighten that out so it isn't all being backed around in the corner. And this grant actually addresses, it's the first time I've ever seen them have anything about even a thought of removing a dam. I thought they were hands off, and now there's a grant. Possibly help, and I don't know if it was told in with the engineer.
Opening for residential stuff to buyouts and stuff like elevating. I have not seen that stuff. I've not seen residential stuff be eligible for any of these grants previously. And this round seemed like it opened some of that.
And the governor spoke today about they were going to try to do more buyouts. He emphasized that because the people who are repeatedly in the flood area, see if they can get them out versus repairing and then repairing and do again. So I don't know, I think that grant is worth our planning commission, not you necessarily, but we sit down as a group and figure out if it's worthwhile.
The one you sent.
The one I
We
said,
don't.
there's some
Okay, all right.
aspects in there that may wanna be handed to that Stratford Road brick thing, there may be aspects that. Rudy and I might be interested for buyout possibilities.
No, I was just looking at this one. Okay, so the project scoping funding are required to submit an application, blah, 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 but the anticipated deadline of late 2024.
What date
It just says late 2024.
is
The
when the
application.
application is due?
It sounds like it. Projects scoped using this funding are required to submit an application to implement, oh, no.
Yeah, yeah,
No, to
that's
implement,
implement.
that's the second round.
Right,
But it gives us time to do the brick and even include parts of this maybe?
No, applications for project scoping will be accepted until January 31st for this one. Oof. I mean, we can look at that.
Well, I would be interested in that dam thing to see if it fit in the brick into whatever Rod's doing here. I mean, they may come together. And it may be a matter of calling up whoever Rod's working with at Two Rivers or V-Trans.
I appreciate that we wanna like work across, all work together, but I do have a concern that that brick grant has pretty strict reporting requirements and they want us to account for how we're spending that money and like, it's pretty. The parameters are pretty clear. I don't think, I mean, I think if we could find sort of like some commonalities with what Rod's doing, that would be okay, but I also think they don't want us like buzzing over into another grant and, kind of mixing monies. That's what my impression is, so I wanna see.
The bottom part of that road is gonna be a mess. And that's reality. It already slid, it's already on their docket, it's already been voted, part of it, the other part of it, the town is a little puzzled what to do, where it
So
fits.
this might just end up being like a,
So it's already got
Awards
V-Trans
picking-
sitting there, Chris Bump is already talking with Rod, Chris Bump is already trying to find money. Chris Bump is already, they got the engineer to look at the first part for, what was it,
yeah,
$120,000.
I think what Amy's saying is pretty accurate, for implementation, so this is a scoping grant, and that's gonna be the tricky part. I absolutely agree that Rod needs to be aware that this is happening, but it's hard for me to imagine that they're gonna allow any of a scoping grant to go to implementation stuff.
What I'm thinking of is the second part of that road. The first part slid.
Yep.
Flood came, second part slid. First part, the engineering, I believe that engineering group was looking at the first part. Second part. There's a question mark for the town, with the second part, in under the brick scoping grant to help our. I'm trying to think of the town, because right now we're kind of aghast at the cost of the engineer alone.
Right, and I
Let
think
alone
that's
repair.
gonna be the part that's, this grant was designed to identify, so what are the costs of that first part? What are the costs of the second part? What are the costs of the spring road? What are the costs of other bypass routes that need to have, clearly, we found out need to be in place, and then what are the priorities based on those costs? So I'm not, I'd love to see it be able to apply to some of the engineering costs, but I consider it unlikely. I think, this kind of grant is gonna be looking at, okay, you've identified this piece of it. Where does that fit in the prioritization?
And actually, I was hoping maybe they would help us with that, because the town, I think, was in question about how does this fit? The town right now is puzzled. What, this one slid. Pre-flood, this one slid after, does it fit under anything? Where do we find the money? Do we go for the town and go for a bond for $500,000?
well, I do think this grant.
So this grant might help even delineate that as a scoping.
Right.
How we address it, they've already hired. an engineer, blah, blah, for this part, the town, maybe they could help us save this part, could fall under and then move on. I don't know, I'm just trying to see if we can make things work for our town together. I'm not trying to get too fuzzy. And I realize your concerns with that.
I just wanna be aware of it, I'm not, you know.
It's gonna be a big, it's gonna be a big ticket item for us down the road.
Well, and I just think the way the brick is set up in this too, it's basically like a 1-2 thing, like do your scoping and then immediately roll it over and apply for like what you've been told you need to do and you apply for the phase 2 of it. The brick is the same way.
Well, and as you look into the brick, if you're heading it up, one of the things to bring up that I think this group and they scope it is the state is offering piecemeal
Mhm.
here and there. If part of their scope is that dam, the Low-Ed Dam removal, we happen to know where there might be some funding on that. It'd be really wonderful if they under their scoping triggered that also and kind of helped us.
Mhm.
We're not sure. As a town, we're kind of like, and people are willing to charge us. We would hope that the scoping happened before the first slide.
Here, in just a couple of minutes.
Okay, well then, let's, my next thing is just anything flooding with it, then. Or flood hazard stuff.
I don't
I just think.
think, I mean, you know, I went and looked at the. You know, I think at this point, it's pretty clear that we have a limited number of places that are the repeat sites at this point, so. I spent some time getting photos and stuff on a couple of those this round. Honestly, you know, the Whitney Hill Bridge worked.
Didn't
The
work quite as good as the
one
Stratford Road.
The one what's that?
I thought the Stratford Road worked even better.
Awesome.
That Whitney Hill got really close to the top there at one point.
But it worked. And, yeah, and the Stratford Road one worked, which is awesome. And the Morrisons did.
Mhm.
But actually it did better. since
Shows,
they-
shows what they're proposing
Yes. And it shows,
very clearly.
I was gonna put in for relief for the beavers.
You know, the partnership was just notified of a, some